Adolf Hitler did not rule alone. At the heart of his power was a shifting inner circle, men whose influence depended entirely on their closeness to the Führer. They were not a formal cabinet, but a court of rivals: Göring, Goebbels, Himmler, Bormann, each carving out their own empire within the Reich. Their loyalty was forged in the early days of the Nazi Party, through shared struggle and radical ideology. Hitler encouraged competition among them, believing it kept them sharp and prevented any one man from becoming too powerful. This court was a place of intrigue, backstabbing, and constant tension. Everyone was desperate to prove their loyalty, terrified of falling out of favor. Hitler played them off against each other, ensuring his word was final and his authority absolute. The inner circle was a reflection of Hitler himself, chaotic, brutal, and utterly dependent on his presence. Their power flowed from him and could be taken away in an instant. In this world, personal loyalty was the only currency that mattered. The true engine of the Nazi state was not its institutions, but the shifting alliances and rivalries of Hitler's chosen few. Hitler's paranoia shaped his regime. He valued loyalty above competence, surrounding himself with sycophants who told him what he wanted to hear. This created a government where survival depended on constant displays of devotion. Bad news was hidden, unpleasant truths ignored, and optimism, no matter how false, was rewarded. As the war turned against Germany, this echo chamber became fatal. Generals who reported defeats were dismissed. Officials who warned of disaster were silenced. The inner circle became a stage for rivalry and fear, with everyone watching and undermining each other. Even the most powerful were never safe. A single misstep could mean ruin. Loyalty was a performance, and the actors were desperate to stay in the Führer's good graces. This system, built to secure Hitler's power, ultimately doomed the regime. By prioritizing loyalty over reality, Hitler created a government of fanatics and opportunists, incapable of facing the truth. The very loyalty he demanded became his undoing. The inner circle, meant to be his greatest strength, was his greatest weakness. Heinrich Himmler, once a mild-mannered chicken farmer, became the architect of Nazi terror. As Reichsführer SS, he built a state within a state, commanding the Gestapo, concentration camps, and the machinery of the Holocaust. Himmler's loyalty to Hitler was legendary. He carried out the regime's most brutal orders without question. He saw himself as the head of a new order, fulfilling a sacred mission for the Aryan race. But as Germany collapsed, Himmler's loyalty faltered. Sensing defeat, he secretly tried to negotiate peace with the Western Allies, betraying the man he once revered. Hitler, upon learning of this, was enraged and stripped Himmler of all power. The faithful servant became a hunted traitor. Captured by the British, Himmler took his own life. His story reveals the self-preserving nature of loyalty in the Third Reich. Even the most devoted could turn when survival was at stake. In the end, Himmler's empire of terror crumbled with his betrayal. Loyalty, in Hitler's world, was always conditional. The ultimate architect of terror died alone, abandoned by the system he helped create. Joseph Goebbels was the master of Nazi propaganda, a gifted speaker who transformed Hitler into a mythic figure. He orchestrated rallies, book burnings, and a relentless media campaign that shaped German minds. Goebbels' devotion to Hitler was absolute, bordering on religious. Unlike others, his loyalty never wavered. He truly believed in Hitler's mission. As the war worsened, Goebbels' role grew. He spun defeat into defiance, demanding total war and inspiring hope amid disaster. Even as Germany crumbled, he fought to keep the illusion of victory alive. In the final days, Goebbels stayed by Hitler's side in the Berlin bunker. After Hitler's suicide, Goebbels became chancellor for a day, a meaningless title as the Reich collapsed. He and his wife poisoned their 6 children, then themselves, unable to imagine life without National Socialism. Goebbels' end was the ultimate act of loyalty, a horrific testament to the power of belief. He followed his Führer into death, the most fanatical of all Hitler's paladins. His propaganda built the myth and consumed him in the end. Goebbels' loyalty was total and utterly destructive. Hermann Göring, once Hitler's chosen successor, embodied the regime's corruption and decline. A World War I ace, Göring was charismatic and powerful, head of the Luftwaffe and the four-year plan. But his promises of air supremacy failed. The Luftwaffe's defeats shattered his credibility. As Allied bombs fell, Göring retreated into luxury, drugs, and denial, his real power slipping away. Hitler's contempt grew, and rivals like Bormann and Himmler filled the void. Göring became a figure of ridicule, mocked even by Hitler. In the war's final days, Göring sent a telegram asking to take over, citing an old decree. Hitler, manipulated by Bormann, saw this as treason and ordered Göring's arrest. Once the regime's second man, Göring was now condemned as a traitor. Captured by the Allies, he was sentenced to death at Nuremberg, but cheated the hangman with cyanide. Göring's story is a classic tale of hubris and downfall. Power, once lost, could never be regained in Hitler's world. The second man's fall mirrored the collapse of the regime itself. In the end, ambition and self-preservation trumped loyalty. Martin Bormann was the shadowy power behind Hitler, rarely seen, but always present. As Hitler's private secretary, Bormann controlled all access to the Führer, shaping what he saw and heard. He was a master of bureaucratic intrigue, isolating Hitler from rivals, and manipulating decisions from behind the scenes. While others built empires, Bormann focused on proximity, knowing that closeness to Hitler was the ultimate source of power. His influence grew as Hitler became more reclusive and paranoid. Bormann filtered information, pushed radical policies, and intensified the regime's brutality. In the final days, he stayed in the bunker, witnessing Hitler's last will and testament. After Hitler's suicide, Bormann tried to escape Berlin, but vanished. For decades, his fate was a mystery, until his remains were found in 1972. The master manipulator died in the ruins of the empire he helped destroy. Bormann's story is a lesson in the dangers of unchecked power behind the throne. He was the spider at the center of Hitler's web, his influence immense, his legacy toxic. In the end, even the most cunning could not escape the collapse. Beyond politics, Hitler's private world revolved around the Berghof and Eva Braun, his secret mistress. The public never knew of her. She was hidden, a symbol of the private life Hitler denied himself in public. The Berghof was a stage for a carefully curated circle, wives, secretaries, and adjutants, where Hitler played the genial host. But even here, his presence dominated. Conversation revolved around him, and no one dared contradict him. Eva Braun's role was personal, not political. She offered Hitler a semblance of normalcy and distraction. Her home movies revealed chilling scenes, the architects of genocide laughing and relaxing, moments after making decisions that killed millions. The illusion of normality masked the regime's monstrous reality. In the end, Eva chose to join Hitler in the Berlin bunker. He married her in his final hours. She became Frau Hitler for less than 2 days. She died by suicide alongside him, a final act of loyalty, hidden until the end. Their private world was a facade, shattered by the collapse of the regime. Even in intimacy, Hitler's world was built on secrecy and denial. The final weeks of the Third Reich were marked by collapse and betrayal. As the Red Army closed in, Hitler's world shrank to the bunker, his inner circle unraveling. Göring's telegram, asking to take power, was seen as treason. He was stripped of office and arrested. Himmler's secret negotiations with the Allies were an even deeper betrayal. Hitler raged, feeling abandoned by those he had trusted most. The loyalty he demanded proved hollow. His paladins tried to save themselves as defeat became certain. Only a handful, like Goebbels and Bormann, remained to the end, their loyalty ending in suicide. In his final testament, Hitler expelled Göring and Himmler, bypassing his old circle for a new successor. The regime's collapse was not just military, but moral. The bonds of loyalty shattered. The inner circle did not survive the death of its center. Betrayal was the final legacy of Hitler's court. Hitler's inner circle was a court of rivals, bound by fear and ambition, not principle. Their power was entirely dependent on the Führer, taken away as easily as it was given. They enabled his worst instincts, creating a system of competition, flattery, and self-preservation. Loyalty was a tool for advancement, abandoned when survival was at stake. Only a few, like Goebbels, showed fanatical devotion. Most were loyal only as long as it served their interests. The collapse of the inner circle revealed the regime's fatal weakness. A government built on fear, greed, and cruelty could not survive crisis. When Hitler fell, the system imploded. Its moral universe shattered. The men who had built their power on Hitler's myth were left with nothing. The vicious circle ended as it began, in chaos, betrayal, and ruin. The story of Hitler's inner circle is a warning about the dangers of unchecked power and blind loyalty. In the end, the cult of one man destroyed everyone within it. The collapse was not just political, but a total moral failure. When the center could not hold, everything fell apart.